All right, finna go ahead and get rocking. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 94. On today's podcast, we're going to be talking about certain types of people that you want to go ahead and avoid. So, to start the podcast, if you're in here, make sure you go ahead and leave a comment just so I can see who's in here. And other than that, make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube Shorts. I post around 20 a week, as well as make sure you go ahead and follow me on TikTok. It's just Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok as well. Same thing, I post about 20 videos a week. Also, I'm posting more videos that are going to be in the range from about 5 minutes to about roughly about 12 minutes. So if you cannot catch a full podcast or do not want to watch a full podcast, in all honesty, but you still want to watch some of the podcasts, I'm also posting those videos. So if you're interested in that, I have that available as well. Other than that, like I said, if you're in here, make sure to leave in the comments because I want to see everybody in here. All right, give me 1 second. So like I said, for the topic for today, there's gonna be a variety of different types of people that you want to go ahead and avoid an interaction with because quite frankly, it's not gonna be worth your time. It's truly not gonna be worth your time. It's not gonna be worth your attention. It's not gonna be worth your energy. And that is something that we focus on so heavily on this podcast. It's focusing only hello, appreciate it. We specifically focus in on spending our time, our valuable resource of time and attention and focus on people who are truly worth it, right? And everybody else can be discarded because quite frankly, like I said, our resources are so vital and so important, and it wouldn't make sense um, to be giving it away to just anybody, right? So if there's also some people or some types of people that I'm not going to mention or that I haven't mentioned, I want you to go ahead and leave it in the comments. So if you have an idea that will contribute to the podcast, I want you to go ahead and do that as well. Also, if you're rewatching this, make sure you go and leave it in the comments. Appreciate it. Gotta avoid who don't count. Exactly, exactly. He already knows what time it is, man. He knows what time it is, man. All right, so we're gonna get into it, right? So avoid these types of people, right? So the first type of person that you want to go ahead and avoid is going to be the people who have a victim mentality, right? It's almost like the world's out to get them, and truly, that's not what it is, right? Everybody has their own certain life circumstance, and everybody has their own problems. But if you come across a person who is constantly putting themselves in the victim mentality, it's not exactly an ideal circumstance to be in, quite frankly. And also, if you guys see this as well, whether it's people that you deal with on your day to day basis that constantly put themselves in a victim mentality, it is not exactly a fun thing to observe from a distance, for sure. Yeah, exactly. They make excuses and things like that, right? Yeah, exactly what KJ just had said right there. Victim mentality. I don't know if that's what you just said or if that's how we're gonna start it off with. But either or, you're on exactly for sure. Exactly for sure. They're always gonna complain, right? There's always going to be something to be said about a certain thing, instead of just taking accountability of your situation, essentially, which I'll get into much later on. Yeah, but like I said, avoid people who have the victim mentality. Like I said, they're not fun people to be around, and I would say they're also people who will sometimes. How do I want to say this? Yeah, they're just life suckers pretty much. They take away your energy. That's all I will say. All right. Like I said, if there's a certain type of person that you think I'm not going to mention, make sure you go and leave in the comments. I have a lot of different certain types of people, so yeah. The next type of person that you really want to stay away from, right? Avoid this type of person who has a limiting mindset. I personally do not surround myself with people who have limiting mindsets, and that's for good reason because I don't want that to wear off on me, right? So limiting mindsets are going to look like, having the self vocabulary of I can't, I couldn't, I could never, having this very very limiting, very very defeating mindset, and I'm not a person who lives by those types of mantras, if you will. And with that being said, I do not think that it's going to be within your best interest to surround yourself with people who have limiting mindsets because it's not only going to affect them, it's going to also affect you. And the last thing you would like is for it to negatively affect you. And obviously, that's something that it probably would do is definitely affect you and the mindset that you have, right? And especially on this podcast, we talk about having the undefeated mindset. Um, I constantly reiterate this and the podcast that I've done. I've done two parts to the undefeated mindset. Just basically cultivating, basically, like I said, an undefeated mindset. That's the only way I could really describe it. And yeah, having people who have a limiting mindset and surrounding yourself with people who have a limiting mindset. is definitely not the route to go. And if you're a person right now who observes in your own life that there's people around you who have limiting mindsets, you can probably see exactly what I'm talking about. Um, and like I said, they're really not fun people to be around. And there's going to be certain situations where you kind of want them to, embrace some confidence. But if they have such a limiting mindset, it's going to be hard for them to truly embrace that. And like I said, they're just not ideal people to be around, in my opinion. All right, this kind of goes hand in hand with the last two that I'd mentioned. But this is going to kind of go for the overarching message in general, right? So this is going to be avoiding people who are perpetually negative, right? Who are constantly they're constantly negative. Or they always try to bring down your vibe when you're up. You want to get rid of these people because here's the thing. One of the things that I mentioned on one of my previous podcasts is going to be your environment and how important your environment is, and understanding how it's going to influence you way more than you would like, or way more than you would even think, to be honest with you. So, with that being said, if you have a person who's perpetually being negative, constantly acting in those certain types of ways that are truly not positive and truly not making a positive impact on your life, then you're going to go ahead and need to remove those people and definitely avoid contact with those people. Also, when I say avoid these type of people, I'm saying in the future, moving forward, you need to avoid these certain types of people, as well as if I mention something that you see and you see in your own life a person that kind of fulfills this um, thing that I'm telling you to go ahead and avoid, right? Then you're going to need to go ahead and seriously consider, at the very least, limiting your time spent with them, if not cutting them out altogether. Because, like I said, I'm not choosing to surround myself with people who are like this. So, like I said, I definitely wouldn't recommend it for you guys. So yeah, avoid people who are perpetually negative, and your life's going to be much better. And the vibes are always going to be up, and they're never going to be. I won't say they're never going to be down, but they're going to be down a lot less. Yeah, I'll just say that. All right. Another type of person that I would choose if I were you to go ahead and avoid is going to be people who are resistant to change or trying new things, right? This is going to be very, very limiting in general, right? If you're around people who are resistant to change, they're always going to want to stay the same. And like I'd mentioned with the environment, right? If you're around people who constantly don't do anything to change themselves, right? That aren't truly on the constant evolution of life, who are just stuck and doing the mundane things that they always do all the time. There's gonna be definitely a problem right there for sure, and also with trying new things as well. Um, I'm not a person. I wouldn't say I'm the most open person to trying new things, but what I will say is, as of recently, I've definitely tried to step out of my comfort zone, and this is something that I would definitely recommend for everybody. Is stepping out of your comfort zone in certain situations that are harmless to your well being, which most situations with trying new things are going to be harmless to your well being. So yeah, definitely try new things and stay away from people who refuse to try new things because, like I said, it's honestly not healthy to not try anything that's new, right? Or it's not healthy to stay the same, right? To be resistant to change and who avoid trying new things. That's not definitely healthy for sure. All right, the next type of person that you must avoid is going to be. This is very, very important. Hold on. Let me reiterate this. This is very, very important. And I feel like people still constantly make this mistake, and I truly do not understand it. This is going to be avoiding people who put themselves and you in an environment that you do not feel safe in. I see this all the time. And I see this more specifically with women, right? They are they're almost a victim of circumstance pretty much. They have friends that kind of lead them in a situation where maybe they won't say it, but I can just feel the energy of them not being exactly 100% safe like they would feel, or like they should feel, rather. And yeah, if you have people who, are not, I won't say not the best people, but okay, the people who are not the best influence, and they're constantly putting you in a situation where you find yourself very, very uncomfortable within the environment, then it is definitely something that you should consider when it comes to um, realistically, at the very, very least, like I'd mentioned, cutting off some of your time, attention, and energy when it comes to giving it to that person. Just because, like I said, you don't want to be in a less than favorable position when it comes to being in an environment you're not safe in. Right? It's just not cool to be in environments that you're not truly not safe in, or truly don't feel safe in. Because with those certain situations, if you're not safe in an environment, then anything could pretty much happen. Right? The environment becomes unpredictable, and therefore, if you're not ready for a certain situation or a certain outcome of a situation to happen, then you might find yourself, like I said, in a less than favorable position, and obviously that's not good. So you must avoid people who constantly put you in environments that you don't feel safe in, for sure. This is something, and most of these things that I'm going to mention today are going to be what I would deem to be common sense, right? Yet, like I had mentioned on a previous podcast before, right? Common sense is definitely not common nowadays. And I'm sure you watching this completely thoroughly understand that. So, with that being said, if you're a person who understands that it's common sense, but yet you still find yourself making these certain situations or certain decisions in life, constantly, you need to reconsider those decisions for sure. All right. This is another one that is probably going to be the most important one, and I need to emphasize this truly. I truly need to emphasize this one because this one is, let me tell you, it's hard. It's the way I would describe it is this: it's hard to just be in a situation or in a conversation with somebody who doesn't do this. This is going to be avoid types of people who don't take accountability and responsibility for their life. Right? It's kind of hard to navigate a certain situation or hold them accountable when they need to be held accountable if they're being resistant to taking accountability for their life or taking responsibility for the life choices that they've made. And this is that. Like I said, this is one that I can't emphasize enough for sure. If you're a person who if you're a person who avoids accountability and responsibility for your life, and people are trying to hold you accountable, yet you for whatever reason find a way out or constantly deny the fact that you need to take accountability and responsibility for your life, um, then I don't know what you're doing. You need to change that. And also, like I'd mentioned, if you see somebody, if you recognize somebody in your life that is truly not taking responsibility or accountability for their life or constantly making excuses and things like that, it makes the human interaction way more harder than it has to be. Truly, a lot harder than it has to be. And that, at the very least, you must consider spending less time with that person, or like I said, you might need to cut them off depending on the type of person and depending on how much of an influence they truly are on you. So yeah, those people are not the most fun people to be around because you know, let's just say for example, you guys wanted to hang out and they bail on you last second. Now you now you understanding the fact that that is a wrong thing, you should be able to truly hold them accountable for their actions. And if they refuse to be held accountable or they make excuses and things like that, instead of saying, champ, I was in the wrong. I was in the wrong. I didn't mean to do that. That was wrong of me to do. If they are a person who avoids those certain situations where they need to take accountability, like I said, you must do something about that because something needs to be done for sure. Like I said, I can't reiterate that one enough. That one is probably one of the most important ones on here, if not the most important one on here for sure. Like I said, avoid people who do not take accountability and responsibility for their life. It just makes life a lot harder to be lived, and especially within their presence, it makes things way more difficult than it needs to be. All right. The next type of person that you must avoid is going to be people who overindulge within vices. And give me one second, I'll describe that right now. So when I say avoid people who overindulge within vices, this is going to be people who are degenerates, truly, truly degenerate. And if you don't know what that means, make sure you go ahead and do your research on that word. But this is definitely a very, very important one because a person who overindulges within vices, if they're in your environment, then you're more than likely going to be able to pick up on those certain habits. And if they're not healthy habits, then you're picking up on a negative habit, right? And I would say most vices, right, are going to be negative. So let's just say drinking, smoking, whatever, right? Anything in between or anything above that, quite frankly. Those are going to be vices that are, like I said, having an occasional drink or an occasional smoke, that's one thing, okay? Now, if it's something that you do every single day and you can't live without it, you have a problem. And if you are surrounding yourself with people who are constantly like that, then they have a problem. And you could try to help them if you would like, but quite frankly, some of those people are so addicted to those things, and yes, I said addicted to those things, that it might not even be worth your time, attention, and energy to try to help that person truly. And that is something that they need to figure out for themselves because eventually, over time, they're going to realize that it's not serving their best self, and they're not going to be the best version of themselves if they constantly, overindulge within those vices. This is something that I've mentioned on a previous podcast. And this is something that like I said, I would say stay away from those certain people who, can't control themselves. And that is what it really is, right? People who truly cannot control themselves and, yeah, who overindulge within things that they probably shouldn't overindulge in. Like I said, an occasional smoke, an occasional drink, that's one thing, okay? Now, if they can't live without it, they have a problem. And if you're constantly, surrounding yourself with the people like that, then quite frankly, you have a problem as well. Just as simple as that. And like I said, your actions are going to reflect that just because you're surrounding yourself with people who think that's okay. Right? Simple as that. All right. Let me read some of these comments real quick. I hate when people don't take accountability because they're not showing responsibility. Exactly. And they are lacking even more. It's okay to be held back, but the accountable people find ways to get okay. Exactly. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Like I said, it's just hard. It's just hard to have a conversation with somebody like that because it honestly reconstructs the entire interaction and the foundation that you guys both think that it should be laid on. Right? If I do something that's wrong, you should be able to hold me accountable. That's reasonable. That's a reasonable, thorough interaction. Um, because that's what's needed within the interaction. Now, if you can't do that, like I said, it's almost like moving the goalpost. So you don't know exactly what foundation you're on. You kind of don't know what your goal is and what the aim is. And with that being said, like I said, you must avoid those type of people. And along with that, like I had mentioned, especially with the vices, man. Especially with the vices, man. Get rid of those people as well. All right. So the next thing, I don't think I mentioned this already, but this is going to kind of go hand in hand with some of the things that I mentioned earlier. So this is going to be avoiding people who over or no who are not over. Avoid people who don't keep their word often, right? There's going to be certain situations where, somebody's not going to be able to keep their word, and there's going to be justifiable reasons behind those things sometimes, okay? Now, if it's most times, if they can't keep their word most times, if they're saying, "Hey, I'm going to do this," and they don't do it most times, then you have a problem. Then that person will have a problem, right? And you do not want to surround yourself with people who don't keep their word because, quite frankly, that shows some type of reliability, right? That they lack reliability, and you shouldn't be surrounding yourself with people who aren't reliable because that's not any fun. That's truly not any fun for anybody in that interaction. And yeah, and like I said, you need to be. Everybody should be a man of their word or a woman of their word. Like I think this is something that it should be common sense, like I'd mentioned, but truly it's not. I constantly meet new people who are not a person of their word, and I think that is an interesting thing because how are you expecting to act in a situation? And like I said, some of those people who don't keep their word are also people who are not accountable for their own actions. So, um, yeah, you must be surrounding yourself with people who will keep their word, right? Like I said, the reliability is a huge thing for sure. And at the very least, let's just say, for example, they're not able to keep their word. How do they go about, like I said, taking accountability for their actions? How do they go about that? Do they say, "Hey, champ, you know what? I wasn't a person of my word right there. You know what? That's my bad. I will do better next time." And then they actually show you better next time. Then that's acceptable, okay? But like I said, if it's 8 times out of 10, they're not being reliable and they're constantly not keeping their word. If a person in general, right? Like that would obviously be a problem, right? But a person in general, if they're not able to keep their word, then their word is going to mean less, right? That is something that I've talked about on previous podcast for sure. Because why would I want to believe you? Why should I believe you if you can't even believe yourself, right? If you can't even make a commitment with yourself saying that, then how should I be able to trust you? Why should I be able to trust you? Why should I even have you around if you can't keep your own word? If you can't even say the things that you're going to do, or if you can't even do the things you say, rather. Like I said, that's one of the most annoying people that you can possibly deal with for damn sure. If you don't keep your word, you will lose respect from others and people won't trust you. He's exactly right. He's exactly right with that. Like I said, he hit it right on the nose. That's exactly how it is, right? All right. So, like I said, if you are in here, make sure to go and leave a comment just like he was in here. If there's a certain type of person that I haven't mentioned yet that you wish more people would avoid, make sure you go and leave in the comments for sure. Also, like I said, if you're rewatching this, make sure you go ahead and leave a comment regarding that question as well. But I'll go ahead and wait for some comments and then I'll continue on. All right. KJ, of course, holding it down as always. Appreciate it, my guy. Appreciate it. All right. Okay. What a day. What a day, fellas. What a day. All right. All right. Come on. Where the comments at, man? Where the comments at, man? We can't be. He can't have four people in here and nobody commented. Come on now. All right. I kind of already said that one. Yeah, this is a good one for sure. This kind of is reiterating everything, I guess, but I'll mention it. I'll mention it as well. So the next type of person that you need to go ahead and avoid is going to be people who hang around people that aren't of high quality. That is a red flag in itself. That is a red flag in itself because if you constantly observe people who do not hang out with the best or most high quality of people, then that is going to say a lot about their character. Just based off of that one thing, right? Based off of that one thing, you're going to be able to say that's going to be able to say a lot about that one person. And like I said, for the most part, it's not going to be worth your time, attention, and energy, like I had mentioned. It's truly not. And I see this all the time. I see this all the time. I see plenty of people, plenty of good people hanging around people who are not shit. Truly, they're not shit. They're not of high quality. Why they do it, I have no idea. This is something that I see very, very, very common, especially with women as well, right? I'm gonna mention this because this is just something I see. I'm gonna call it exactly how I see it, right? And if you follow me on social media, you know that I mentioned this the other day, and this is exactly what it is. Here's the thing: it's not hard to hang around people who are of a higher quality, or at the very least, who are quality, right? Now, constantly hanging out with people who are what I would deem to be lames is so crazy. It's just so crazy. I just don't understand. Like I said, people who give their time, attention, and energy, and more importantly, their focus on people who are not of high quality. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, the more you indulge within people who are not of high quality, the more that says about yourself, right? So, the more people you hang out with that are not of quality, then you're going to automatically lower your own quality, right? And you should be doing everything in your power to maintain as much quality as you possibly can. And if you're choosing that action for whatever reason, then quite frankly, you deserve everything that's coming to you. And it's honestly, that sounds very, very ruthless, but that is exactly the way it is. And like I said, just hang around people who are of higher quality. And if you don't have anybody that's of higher quality, then you must find and seek out other people who are not in your circle of influence right now, right? And like I said, it is definitely worth considering cutting those people off who are not hanging out with people of higher quality. Yeah, like I said, it's as simple as that. Like I said, at the very least, you must limit your time with them. You must limit your time with them. All right, let's read what he said. So he said, all right, I feel like you should avoid people who don't really have an ambition or a goal for things. For this one, you will have to get to know them a longer, but most people don't have anything to do. Yeah, exactly. He's actually right. Yeah, exactly. They're trying to drag you down to their level. He's exactly right. Yeah, no, I would say that. I'm surprised I didn't mention that. That's something that I thought of, but I never wrote it down. But yeah, he's exactly right. You must avoid people who don't have any ambition or goals, right? And this is kind of going. That's when that would fall under the higher quality, right? That's what I would deem to be higher quality people, people who have goals and missions and who have true purpose, right? And who aren't just living life to be lived or living life just to exist, rather living life with an intention and purpose, like I'd mentioned. Um, yeah, you must surround yourself with people who are going to be of higher quality, like I'd mentioned, right? The higher quality is going to be different to every single person, quite frankly. But yeah, the way that he described it is what I would deem to be a higher quality person for sure. Yeah, and who doesn't all do the other shit that I'd mentioned as well. That is going to be a person of higher quality, right? All right. The next type of person that I wish you can avoid for your own life is going to be avoiding people who are so fixated on instant gratification, right? Now, instant gratification is going to come in a lot of different areas in life, right? But it's easy to recognize somebody if they're a person who's so fixated on instant gratification. They're a person looking forward to the weekend way more than they possibly should, or looking forward to certain events way more than they should, and who don't have anything else going on besides that, right? It is definitely a must for you to go ahead and avoid people who are constantly seeking instant gratification instead of focusing on long term success, right? It is definitely something that you're going to have to evaluate very, very early on, at least the best you possibly can when it comes to meeting somebody that is new. But with that being said, like I said, instant gratification is going to look different for everybody. But just know that they're not going to be a future focused person. They're going to be a person who's so fixated on the present moment and trying to get the best out of this moment, and sacrificing the potential good future for what could be of the present right now. Right? Like I said, instant gratification could be like um, spending your entire paycheck, or like I said, overindulging within vices, things like that, or going out every single opportunity that they possibly can. Instant gratification is going to look like, not putting the work in when you need to put the work in, and choosing another activity that is less than quality, just because it feels good in the moment. Right? There's going to be a lot of things that feel good in the moment that would fall into that instant gratification. Um, yeah, I guess it would just fall into that instant gratification, and you must avoid people who constantly choose the short term highs for like I said, long term gratification. You must sacrifice those people, because those people, like I said, they don't even know what the hell's going on in their own life. So why would you surround yourself with people who truly do not even know what the hell's going on in their own life? Yeah, like I said, it's as simple as that. We got 5 people in here. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. Make sure to go and leave a comment. Just like to see who's in here. Like I said, if there's a certain type of person that I haven't said yet that you think people should avoid, make sure to go ahead and leave in the comments for sure. We got a few more. We got a few more. So like I said, I want to know your guys' take on some of these things. And there's also things that I would say that people might mention in the comments that kind of fall into some of these categories. I feel like I got a lot of different. Maybe I didn't get that one. Okay, he said avoid people who litter. Yes, who are not environmentally cautious and conscious, right? Conscious rather. Yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely stay away from those people, because those people are not going to be doing the best for everybody around them, right? Definitely, definitely very, very good for sure. Shout out to Gio, by the way. Appreciate it, man. Give me 1 second. All right. All right. The next certain type of people who you wish to avoid. Facts. We love the earth. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Come on now. No, like, here's the thing. If you do, you gotta act like it. You gotta act like it. Come on now. You know what time it is, man. All right. So the next type of person that I wish for you to go ahead and avoid is going to be people. Avoid people who you perceive to be manipulative. Right. This is going to be different, and this is going to be unique to every single certain situation that you come across. But if you see certain tendencies within this person that make it almost seem like they're intentionally doing things for a certain outcome, who are using, yeah, I would say, who are almost super, super, super strategic to try to get an emotional reaction out of you, or try to provoke you in a certain way. Like I said, that is out of the ordinary. Yeah, you must avoid those certain people who you perceive to be potentially manipulative. Like I said, I can't describe every single situation that might fall into. This is going to be something that you're probably going to need to evaluate in your own life. And when it comes to meeting people, this is something you're going to quickly need to figure out for sure. But there's going to be certain people out there that truly don't have the best intentions, and who truly just want some, like I said, want that superficial and selfish desire. And you must understand that you need to just get rid of those people and avoid those people at all costs, right? I've came across a few people in my life who I truly believe who had, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, they had some type of manipulative desire, and they try to place that on me. And if I see that shit, like I said, I'm not even gonna entertain it, right? And the way that I look at it, and if you know me in my personal life, you probably heard me say this before, right? Um, Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and that is what I would deem to be a stupid game. So therefore, I would rather just not play the game at all. It's as simple as that. Isaac, appreciate you for stopping by, my guy. Yeah, it pretty much is just like that, right? Like I said, avoid people who are manipulative, and if you see certain tendencies in this person who seem a little out of character from what they usually are, or like I said, who seem extra strategic in their ways of being, Um, yeah, like I said, you must at the very least, like I said, spend less time with this person. Truly spend less time with this person. Give this person less time, attention, and energy. I've said this a few times, but like I said, that's something that you're at the very least going to need to do. If not, like I said, remove them altogether. All right. Well, here's the thing. I didn't even know I had this one. I did have this one, KJ. I did have that one, man. The way that I wrote it is this. It said, avoid people who aren't ambitious and who don't have goals and aspirations for their own life, right? Like KJ had mentioned, they're going to try to drag you down to their level, right? And if you do not want to be at their level because it's not something that you desire to be, then you're going to need to remove these people for sure. Avoid them at all costs. And the way that you can really evaluate this is just by asking a few questions to get to know them, right? I feel like you can figure this out very very early on. If a person is truly ambitious, you're going to be able to see that within their character. You're going to be able to ask the right questions and get the answers that would justify them being ambitious or having goals or having aspirations for their own life, right? And like I said, this is probably something you can recognize within the first three interactions if you try intentionally to try to figure that out. And like I said, you will be able to see if this person is a person who indulges within vices or indulges within instant gratification. And from there, you can recognize if they truly have ambitions or truly have goals or aspirations for their life. You're going to be able to recognize this very very early on. And if you see a person with tendencies that do not suggest that they're ambitious, um, they're probably not worth keeping around, and you must avoid them at all costs for sure. Like I said, fellas, if there's a certain type of person that you wish for people to avoid more of, right? Make sure to leave in the comments. Just because I'm not going to be able to, cover every single person you truly need to avoid. So make sure to leave in the comments for sure. Twitch popping up, yes or no? If you're on Twitch, make sure to leave a comment as well. I know I probably got a few people on Twitch as well. Let me see. Nope, guess not. Okay, fine. All right. I got one more type of person that you wish to avoid. Like I said, if you're in here, make sure and leave a comment just so I can see who's in here. And also, like I said, if there's a specific person that you wish more people would avoid, make sure and leave in the comments as well. Now, the last one is going to be, like I said, a more of a common sense one, but yet you still see people with tendencies that would suggest that there are these ways, and for whatever reason, people do not avoid these people. So this is going to be avoiding people who lie, steal, and cheat. And this could be in any capacity, right? Lying, stealing, and cheating, right? Now, whether this is cheating on their partner, or cheating in a game, or stealing something from you, or stealing something from the store, or lying to you, or lying to you recognize that they're lying to other people, right? You must avoid these people because these people are not of the highest quality. And everybody knows this. Like I said, everybody knows this, but not everybody does exactly what the hell I'm telling you to do, which is, like I said, to avoid those people. They'll recognize that their friend or whatever have these certain types of tendencies, and they won't do anything. They won't do anything. They won't say anything to them. They won't remove their attention from them. They just continue to say, "Hey, that person is that person," and yeah, they just do them. But like I said, for me, for example, if I see somebody that does this, like I said, I know, I consciously make a note and say, "Hey, that person isn't of the highest quality, and I don't want to be like that. So I would not want to surround myself with people who are like that." And it's as simple as that. All right. I'll read that right now. KJ, give me 1 second. Like I said, avoid people who cheat, lie, and steal. It's as simple as that, right? Like I said, they're not of the highest quality. They're not of the highest quality, so avoid those people for sure. For an example, he said, a person could always want to hang out with you or think that they like you, but they only use you for a resource, resources you may have. Exactly. Like I said, this is just being able to evaluate the motives of somebody around you as well with asking the right questions. Maybe they just want your attention. Maybe they just want your time. I see people who are like this all the time. They're true energy vampires. That's what I like to call them. And I see a lot of people like that, and I see more women that are like that. Within my personal own experience, I see more women like that. Now, I'm not saying I'm not trying to be what's the word I'm looking for? Bitter about the situation, but that is just something that I recognize. And if you're a guy watching this, I'm sure you understand what the hell I'm talking about. I'm sure you understand what the hell I'm talking about. Um, who, like I said, they just like attention. They just like attention, man. They truly just like attention, and they will go along with the situation and act like they'll hang out with you, and then they just won't hang out with you. They just like the attention, man. Avoid people. That's another person you must avoid as well. Avoid people who just like attention, right? Attention-seeking people are very, very superficial people, right? They're not, that is what I would deem to be, or that would probably fall into the instant gratification, right? They like that. They like that immediate attention. It gives them a certain type of validation. You must avoid those certain types of people as well because, like I mentioned, they're not of high quality. They're truly not of high quality. Lots of people in college who live on campus don't have cars, so if they, yeah, exactly. I can understand that. I can understand that, Katie. They will basically use the resources or abuse the resources that that person has, just for the convenience of them being around instead of actually, genuinely finding interest within the person. For sure, I understand that completely. You must avoid people who, like I said, who are intentionally trying to use you for a certain situation. You must avoid those people for sure. Fellas, avoid these fucking people, man. I'm telling you, they're not good for you, man. They're not good for you. So for the new people that are in here, I'm gonna go over all the things that I mentioned. Also, like I said, if there's a certain type of person that I didn't mention that you think is worth mentioning when it comes to trying to avoid, um, that are people worth avoiding, make sure you go and leave them in the comments. All right, we'll get into it. So the people that I'm going to suggest for you to go ahead and avoid, these certain types of people are going to be people who have the victim mentality. This is the first one that I had mentioned, right? Get rid of those people who have the victim mentality, who feel like the world is against them when in reality the world is against everybody every day. That is really how it is. Um, yeah, avoid people who have that mentality because they're truly not going to be a person that is worth keeping around because I would deem that person to be throwing a pity party when in reality everybody can be throwing a pity party at the end of the day. And you feeling bad for somebody or who people who want you to feel bad for them, that's a whole nother thing. But like I said, um, avoid those people who have the victim mentality because, like I said, they're not healthy. They're not healthy people. I'm gonna say that they're not mentally healthy. Let's just say that. The next person that I would recommend for you guys to go ahead and avoid is going to be people who have a limiting mindset. Right? Don't surround yourself with people who have a limiting mindset. Especially on this podcast, we talk about the undefeated mindset. You must not have people who have limiting mindsets because, like I said, we're very, very impressionable people, right? Our environment is going to dictate our own reality. So if you have people who have limited mindsets, then you're more than likely going to be able to pick up, whether you would like to or whether you wouldn't like to, pick up on certain limiting mindsets that are not truly not going to be the best for you in your life. So avoid those people. The next person I would recommend for you to go ahead and avoid is going to be people who are perpetually negative. You must you must get rid of those people, right? Big Sean said it best, man. Big Sean said it best, right? Good vibes and no vibes. My vibe, simple as that. So, with that being said, if they're negative, get rid of them, man. Good vibes and no vibes. Simple as that. All right, the next one is going to be avoid people who are resistant to change or trying new things. You must get rid of those people. Those people are what I would deem to be childish people, quite frankly. Whether they're adults or whatever, I would deem to be them to be childish, right? It is not okay for a person to not want to try new things, right? That's not a healthy character trait to have. Or a person who is resistant to change. You must get rid of those people that are in your life that are resistant to change because if they're resistant to change, life is about constant evolution, right? And if they're resistant to change, then quite frankly, they're not living the life. They're not living life the intended way it was supposed to be lived. So, therefore, like I said, don't surround yourself with people who aren't doing what they probably should do. Simple as that. All right, the next person is going to be avoiding people who put themselves in environments or puts you or themselves in environments that are not going to be ideal or make you feel safe. You must avoid those people because they're gonna put you in certain situations that you're not going to feel comfortable in, and when you're not comfortable in a certain situation, the outcomes can potentially be unpredictable. And I'm not a person who loves to be in unpredictable situations where I have little to no control. So if you're a person that is also like that, which most people watching this probably are like that, then you must avoid certain people who are going to put you in situations that are going to be less than ideal. It's simple as that. All right. The next type of person that I wish for you to go ahead and avoid is going to be people who do not take accountability and responsibility for their own life, right? I feel like most of these go down to about a few of these things, right? High quality people, or rather, avoid people who are not surrounding themselves with high quality people. That one kind of stems from most of what I had mentioned, and also, avoid people who do not take responsibility and accountability for their lives. Like I said, those people are going to be very, very annoying, in my opinion. Right? They're just going to be more difficult and there's going to be certain situations that are going to be a lot harder to handle, and they're going to make less sense in general, because they're not able to do the basic fundamentals of what it takes to have a thorough interaction, with another person. Like I said, if you're not able to hold somebody accountable for their actions, then it's going to be hard to truly get along with this person the best way you possibly can. Or for a person who's not taking responsibility for their life, it's going to be hard to truly just honestly just observe those people, right? It's hard to observe those people who do not take responsibility for their life. And like I said, who maybe even have that victim mentality, blaming the world instead of just pointing the finger back at themselves, right? It's hard to live. It's hard to live in existence next to a person who is like that. So, like I said, make sure you avoid that person altogether. Or, like I said, if you have people in your life that are like that, you must get rid of them, or at the very least, like I'd mentioned, limit your time, attention, and energy and focus from them. The next type of person that I wish for you to go ahead and avoid is going to be people who overindulge within vices. So this is going to be drinking, smoking, doing any other excess drugs and things like that, or any other specific vices. Right? Let's just say playing video games is what I would deem to be a vice. And if you see a person who is overindulging within this, they're ODing on vices, then you must get rid of them. You must get rid of them. You must avoid them at all costs, because those people, they don't have the best interest for their own life. So why do you think they would have the best interest for your life? And you should only be surrounding yourself with people who have the best interest for your own life. And it's as simple as that. All right, the next person I wish for you to go ahead and avoid are going to be people who don't keep their word. Like I said, if you're not a person of your word, if you're not a man of your word, if you're not a woman of your word, if you're not a whatever in between of your word, then you're a person truly not worth being around, because your word has absolutely no meaning and you have absolutely no reliability. People can't rely on you, and you can't even rely on your own self, because you're not keeping your own word. And the more you don't keep your word, the more your word is going to mean less. And if you're a person who wants to mean what they say, then you must of course, keep your word as much as you possibly can. And at the very least, if you're not able to keep your word, you must hold yourself accountable, that's exactly what is needed within a thorough human interaction. All right, the next thing that I had mentioned, like I said, I've already mentioned this one. I'm gonna go ahead and end it off here in a minute, but is going to be avoiding people who hang around people who are not of the highest quality. You must avoid these people, because if they're a person who is not hanging out with high quality people, you can say and make a lot of probably correct assumptions about them in their own life, based off of based off of that one quality, based off of that one trait that they have. Now, this is going to be probably not the hardest thing to recognize within somebody. Within the first 2 or 3 interactions, you'll be able to recognize this very, very quickly, and therefore, avoid them at all costs for sure. The next thing, the next type of person that I would definitely recommend for you to go ahead and avoid is going to be people who are fixated on instant gratification. Like I said, instant gratification is going to be very, very broad, but at the same time, it's going to be people who are not super focused on the future. They're so fixated on the present and having the best moment that they possibly can in the present, that they don't even take into account the future. So you must avoid those people, because those people, like I said, do not have the best interest for their own life. So what the hell why would they have the best interest for your life? Like I said, not worth keeping around for sure. All right. The next type of person I wish for you to go ahead and avoid in your life is going to be people who you perceive to be manipulative, right? This is also another thing that is definitely very, very broad, and something that you're going to need to go ahead and recognize for yourself, because it's going to be unique in every single situation. So this is going to be, like I said, if you perceive them to be acting in a slimy way that is very, very manipulative, or intentionally manipulative, or at the very least, maybe they don't even know that it's manipulative behavior. You want to hold that person accountable, and if they're not worth being held accountable, then like I said, you must avoid them at all costs. It's as simple as that. All right, one of the last ones is going to be avoid people who aren't ambitious, who don't have goals, and who don't have any aspirations for their life. You must avoid these people, because these people are going to be people who drag you down. And if you don't want them to drag you down, then you must not have them in your life. Simple as that. Some of these people are maybe even worth helping, truly, because maybe they need some direction, maybe they need some help. But I would say for the most part, you must stay away from those types of people, because, like I said, those type of people don't even have the best interest for their own life. So what the hell? What makes you think that they're going to have the best interest for your life? They're not, so don't. And the last one is going to be avoid people who lie, steal, and cheat in any capacity or any endeavor in life. You must avoid these people, because these people are not going to be of the highest quality, like I'd mentioned, and um, they're gonna have what I have. They're gonna have what I deem to be slimy behavior. Avoid people with slimy behavior because here's the thing, man. You don't want the slime to rub off on you, so you must avoid those type of people for sure. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it off here in a few minutes. I want to know your guys' take on some of the things that I'd mentioned. Also, if like I'd mentioned previously, if there's a certain type of person you wish for people to avoid more of, make sure you go and leave in the comments for sure. But yeah, like I said, there's gonna be a lot of different types of people, and that's crazy. Wow, pause that for the one time. I'm not even gonna say that, man. That's out of pocket, man. You can read that in the comments if you want, man. I ain't even saying that. I ain't saying that in AK, man. No way. No, I'm good, man. I'm good, man. I ain't saying that, man. All right, like I said, there's gonna be a lot of people that you need to avoid, man. Just recognize, and like I said, maybe this podcast will give you some, um, consciousness when it comes to, hopefully going about if you should evaluate if this person should be in your life or not, right? Or let's just say you see a certain tendency that I didn't mention on here that is worth avoiding, right? It'll allow you to be more conscious and in the moment of those certain things because you never know when you're going to need to avoid these certain types of people for sure. The hey yo, yeah, that's what it is right there. That's for sure. But yeah, that is the podcast for today. Like I said, if you like this podcast, make sure you go ahead and leave a like. Also, if you're new, make sure you go ahead and make sure you go to subscribe for sure. And also make sure you go and follow me on TikTok, Life of a Champ Podcast on TikTok, as well as on Twitch, Life of a Champ Podcast on there as well. Other than that, fellas, like I said, I'll give you a few minutes. I'll give you a few more minutes, man. All right. Yeah, there's gonna be more people that are worth avoiding for sure than I mentioned. So get rid of these people, man. Get rid of these people, man. They're not good for you, man. They're not good for themselves, man. So they're not good. They're not gonna be good for you. That's for damn sure. And here's another thing, man. Another thing that I want to mention with this as well, right? There's certain people that I've talked to that have these tendencies still. They recognize it. They truly recognize it. And maybe they don't. And I bring it to their attention, right? And then they choose not to do anything about it. I think that shit's absolutely mind-blowing. I say, hey, this person doesn't have the best intentions for their own life. Oh, I'm still going to hang out with them. What are you doing? What are you doing? I don't understand it, man, but you do you, man. Do you, man. I'm just trying to help y'all out, man. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you the best advice I possibly can. And if you don't want to take it, perfectly fine. Like I said, just don't complain about the results because I gave you the game. I gave you the game. What more did you want from me? What more did you want from me? I tried to help you. Tragedy, man. It's absolute tragedy. All right, fellas. Like I said, I'll give y'all about 2 more minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and end it off in a few more minutes. So, like I said, if there's a certain type of person that you wish for people to avoid, make sure you go and leave in the comments. Also, like I mentioned, if there's a certain thing that I mentioned that, resonated with you or that you've seen that in your own life, how that could be applied, make sure you go and leave in the comments as well. I just see it too much, man. I had to make a podcast like this. I had to make an entire podcast like this because it's just too goofy, man. It's just too goofy, man. It's just too goofy. Speaking about that, right? Another person that you must avoid, another type of person you must avoid is people who just are they don't take life seriously. They don't take life seriously. Everything's a joke. You must avoid that type of person as well. Um, that's just a sad reality of life. If they do not take life seriously, if you're watching this, you're a person who should be able to take life seriously because life is something that is life, right? It is definitely, hopefully, worth something taken serious. Um, and if it's not, then like I said, you need to make some adjustments in your own life. But like I said, do not hang around with people who are just too goofy. That's something that I would also recommend for sure. Like I said, don't take life seriously and who act goofy all the damn time. Avoid these people because these people are not of the highest quality, truly. Now they might be here for a good time, and you might have some laughs. I'm not saying that person is the worst person in the entire world, but what I am saying is, what do you value? Do you value a quick laugh, or do you value, people who are of the highest quality? Ask yourself that question, and then make your decision based off of that answer. It's as simple as that. But other than that, fellas, I'm going to go ahead and end it off. This was the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 94, talking about certain types of people that you must avoid. Like I mentioned before, make sure you go and follow me on TikTok, just Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok. Leave a like on some of the videos that I post. I'm posting about 20 videos roughly a week. Also, Make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube shorts as well. Life of Champ podcast. You already know what time it is, man. Just make sure you leave a like on those as well. And like I'd mentioned earlier on in the podcast, I am now creating short clips from the podcast that are about 5 to 12 minutes long. So if you can't catch a full podcast and the shorts are not long enough, I have something available for you as well. Other than that, I'll leave you guys off with the motto, man. The podcast motto: if you know, you know. If you don't, then you don't, man. Make sure you go ahead and leave in the comments before I say it. If you know the podcast motto, make sure you go ahead and leave in the comments, and then I'll go ahead and say it. Of course, come on now. I'll give y'all about 15 seconds, man. I'll give y'all about 15 seconds to type it. You better type it fast, man. You better type it fast, man. If y'all don't know the podcast motto by now, man, you're just not watching enough, man. You're not getting the game like you're supposed to, man. You're not getting the game like you're supposed to. Simple. All right, man. You gave me no choice, man. You gave me no choice. Exactly. You know what time it is, KJ. You know what time it is, man. Fellas out here, man, we don't just work, man. We outwork. So make sure y'all working these motherfuckers every single day. And it's as simple as that. Outwork. That's the word, man. We don't work, man. We outwork. Like I said, make sure y'all working these motherfuckers. And until the next podcast, I'll have a podcast on Thursday. So tap in with that for sure. Also, like I had mentioned on the previous podcast as well, if there's a certain topic that you want me to talk about that is truly something that I can make an hour's worth of a podcast about, and it's something that you think that can help other people out besides you, make sure to go and leave in the comments as well. Other than that, fellas, like I said, this was Life of Champ podcast, episode number 94, talking about certain people that you must avoid. Next podcast on Thursday. And other than that, fellas, you guys have a good rest of your night. And like I said, tap in on Thursday, man. Tap in on Thursday. We out, man. We out.